Hey everyone, welcome back to I Heart Movies. My name is Jonathan North, and in this episode, I'm joined by my friend Saul, and we're going to be ranking all the live action remakes that were released by Disney in 2019. This will be the first episode of a limited miniseries looking back at the movies of last year, and normally there aren't enough of this kind of movie, the Disney live action remakes, to warrant dedicating a whole episode to, but somehow Disney managed to crank out 6 of them in 1 year. Everyone in the film community seems to have strong opinions about these movies, so I thought it might be a good idea to cover them somehow in my recap episodes. For 2018, I did an episode ranking all the animated films of the year, which was pretty straightforward, but with these, Disney is really trying to blur the lines with most of them, using so much CGI that they might as well be animated, and one of them is actually entirely animated, despite what Disney press releases would have you believe. So instead of lumping them all into the animation category, I thought it would be better to talk about them as their own thing. And since I've talked about these kind of movies with Saul in the past, I thought she'd be the perfect co-host for this episode. So to cover them, we're going to be ranking them in order from least to most favorite, and discussing them as we get to them. Now for those of you keeping track, yes, there were only 3 truly original live-action remakes released in theaters last year: Dumbo, Aladdin, and The Lion King. However, there was also 1 sequel, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, 1 direct-to-streaming release on Disney+, Lady and the Tramp, and 1 television film, which was a remake of one of Disney's animated series from the early 2000s, Kim Possible, and we wanted to talk about all of them. I guess we can just start at the bottom and move our way up to the top. What is your least favorite of the live-action Disney?
Well, my least favorite is one. Okay, so usually I don't believe in like boycotting films, but this one I feel so strongly about that. I was like, I'm not gonna give Disney my money for this. And I watched it last night on Disney Plus, and that was The Lion King live action. The reason why it's in the bottom for me is, for me, a live action, for it to make sense, it has to give something new and fresh to the story, which this one absolutely did not. I felt there was no emotion whatsoever in the entire story. And I feel like if there was a film that did not need a remake, was this one. I would 100% would have I've told you this in the past, but if no one has seen those videos before, I'm just gonna quickly mention it here. I would have loved this, based on the success of Black Panther and other movies like that, having this movie kind of be about African tribes, and it'd be the same story but with actual humans. And I feel like that would have given a cool twist. The choreography would have made sense. It would be fun, especially since the success of the Broadway show. There will be some, oh my gosh, Can You Feel the Love Tonight was during daytime. That got me so mad. You have no idea. I almost wanted to like turn off my TV. I was like, I'm done. It's just, this film had no essence, no emotion. And for me, when I watch a film, since I'm an actress, I really do pay attention to the character's emotions. I did like the voice actor for Scar. The one line that he totally messed up was when he says, "Long live the king," and kills Mufasa. He gave me nothing with that line, but everything else, he was probably the strongest voice actor out of all of them. But yeah.
That one is slightly higher on my list, but only because my bottom movie is Dumbo.
I can totally see that.
Probably because my expectations were way too high with this film. I went in thinking that it was going to be great. Like, I like Tim Burton, and he was the one directing this. I expected him to have some grand, crazy vision for this film, because otherwise, why would he even want to make it?
Right.
But instead, it was just weird, and not in a good way. Like, the first half of the movie was basically Dumbo, the original movie, and then it was like they tacked on a sequel after that.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel right. There were so many plot choices that just felt strange, and like they didn't belong. And like the whole subplot about eventually the circus, like, they realizes that they need to be kind to animals, and they return all the animals. And it's like, this is the early 1900s. These circus people are not going to care one bit about the welfare of the animals, especially because they were beating them at the beginning and ready to separate Dumbo and his mother, and I think even kill Dumbo's mother. So like they had this change of heart within like a week or two, however long this movie lasted. it was it just everything was so dumb. And maybe if I watch them again, it might rank a little higher than Lion King did. But like I don't care enough to watch it again.
I totally 100% agree with you. I think the reason why I have mine, let me see what exact spot I have it. I actually have it the one spot on top of Lion
Okay.
King. The one reason for that is just because I did at least appreciate that they sort of tried to not just do a copy paste of the original one. That's my only like pro. Even though it was super bad, their attempt, at least I appreciated that it didn't feel totally like a cash grab. You know what I'm saying? Like there
Mhm.
was some sort of thought, even though it didn't work. I did appreciate the thought. But I remember seeing Dumbo, and I just remember leaving the theater like, what was this? Like you, I was so hyped for it because I didn't love the original one, so I was like, when I love when they pick movies when they were like meh in the original, like for example, I'm not a huge fan of Sleeping Beauty. That's why I love Maleficent because it went for, or the Jungle Book one. I feel like the original one's like, man, there's potential for much story. So that's why also I didn't like The Lion King because the original one seemed perfect. But Dumbo felt like a film that had a lot of potential for a live action, especially with Tim Burton. I was like, ooh, this is gonna be so cool visually. And I feel like the visuals were actually really poor. And there wasn't that I don't know. I feel really underwhelmed with the visuals actually, and
Mhm.
I feel like from the guy who did Alice in Wonderland and all these amazing things, it felt like a small scale to me. It didn't feel as creative to me. I was really surprised, and also, oh my gosh, the kids had no emotions. That like drove me crazy. Like,
Yeah.
Dad, you're back. It's like, you're telling me of the millions of kids actors out there. You pick only the ones that look like the Tim Burton because they have big eyes and they're very pale. That that annoyed me. But yeah, Dumbo, I completely agree with you. I feel like there was so much potential, and I went maybe with too many high expectations, and I left like, what? It was just it's such a mess and so convoluted, you know?
Mhm.
Okay, what do you
Yeah.
have next?
We switched our bottom two, so my next one
Ah,
is Lion King. And yeah, basically most of what you said is probably my reasons for having it low. Like I didn't hate the film. Like
yeah.
so I think I've only seen the original Lion King once. It was one we weren't allowed to watch when I was a kid.
Oh,
So
wow.
so I didn't have any like nostalgic attachment. So I assumed that because I didn't have any attachment to it, I was going to like it more. The remake I was going to like more
Mhm.
than most people, and I suppose I did, but
Right.
not enough that I feel like I actually liked the film.
Yeah,
Like it was just fine. It was
I did
like
appreciate the humor in it. I think Timon and Pumbaa were funnier in this
yes,
movie.
they were the best part.
Yeah, and Sausage.
But the rest of the writing was just bland. It really was a remake of the original, but with all the heart sucked out of it. It was like because they wanted to lean so much into the naturalistic look, there was no emotion.
At all.
Like everything that you should have been feeling was just gone because the animals just had blank faces, which I guess they would in real life, but this is a movie. It's not real life. We're supposed to feel things,
That's what
and we
the
didn't.
thing of like I just can't wait to be king, where it's so colorful and fun. And this one they were just walking. Same with Hakuna Matata, they're just walking. And I'm
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, literally one of the most creative songs out there, and you made it so bland.
Hmm. That was the biggest problem. Like, I appreciate all that they were trying to do with the technology, and visually, for what they were going for, it looks great. It's almost realistic,
Yeah.
but that's not what we wanted out of the movie.
I knew that this film wasn't going to be good as soon as it announced it because John Favreau, he directed The Jungle Book, right? The live action, which I really enjoyed that one. But what I did not like about that one was what they did with the musical numbers. They made, I Want to Be Like You and Bare Necessity is so bland and lazy looking that I was like, he clearly is going for a realistic approach. And when it comes to musicals, the number one rule is it's no realistic. There's no, it shouldn't be real.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew from the get-go that based on what he had done with the musical numbers in Jungle Book, that this one was just gonna be, oh, let's focus on making realistic and forget the artistic sense of it. I feel like when you are directing a musical, you should hire someone who has been in the theater industry or like has done
Mm-hmm.
musicals, because if for someone who is just does cool effects, that's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like Jon Favreau. I think he's made some great movies in the
Mhm.
past, but I think he was the wrong choice for this one.
100%. I agree. So up next, I have Kim Possible.
Okay.
um, again, I really enjoyed the show growing up, and as soon as they casted the main girl, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, she's not my Kim," and I was like, "You know what? She's actually the right age. Let's give her a chance. You know, she seems good." Like I was open minded, and when I saw the movie, I was just so disappointed because so much of the, I would say 90% of the movie is just her crying. I was like, I am not rooting for Kim because all she's doing is crying. Where is my fighting cool stuff? Like there was barely any of that, and I hate it. I feel like this film would have been so much more fun without Athena. Like I feel like she took so much time from the film away from
Mm-hmm.
Kim that was just frustrating. And then the fact that she joins their team at the end is like, no, 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 thank you. Um, so yeah, that was the part. And they got rid of Monique, which I was like, excuse me, which usually I'm not that picky is like getting rid of a character, but that character is like African American, and since there's not much representation in films and movies, I feel like it was kind of not nice of them to get rid of that character, at least for me, and get it replaced with Athena. I don't know, but yeah.
That one's a little higher for me.
Hmm.
Um, and actually, it would have been in this place, but at the last minute, I swapped two around. So my next one is Lady and the Tramp,
Interesting.
and this is another one that I feel like I think I went in with too high of expectations, and I don't know why I had higher expectations. And it ended up being like not that much better than The Lion King. I
Hmm.
mean, I do like it better than Lion King because I liked the most of the humans, not all of them. There were the some of the humans that I didn't like were what brought it down for me, and probably would have been higher if it had better humans. But in terms of like the dogs and everything, I really liked that they had real dogs and they didn't go for CGI. I
Yeah.
didn't think that the talking animations for their mouths were that bad. Sometimes it was, but
I
it was definitely not as bad as people were saying. They didn't look hideous or whatever. They it was fine. The whole thing was just fine. There were just a few things about it that kept bringing it down, which number one was the humans. The dog catcher I hated, and I suppose that's the point. But I just hated him as a character, as a person. Everything about him was so beyond annoying that
yeah.
I just couldn't stand him. And Aunt Sarah wasn't that much better. And I know that's the point. You're not supposed to love Aunt Sarah, but I wanted to like her because I like Yvette Nicole Brown. And I was excited to see her in this. And then she ended up being like one of the worst characters. And her
Same.
cats. Like, I hated the whole thing with the cats. Like, I understand why they wanted to get rid of the Siamese cat song, but don't replace it with something that's really dumb. Like, I hated the whole song, and the cats were so annoying. It just, they needed to have reworked that scene
Yeah.
to be something way better. And it's just little things like that that just kept bringing the film down, even though there are parts of it that I thought were genuinely sweet. And like, I would watch the movie again. It's not a bad movie. It's just very meh. It's just fine
It's fine.
because of all the things that just kept bringing it down.
Yeah, I'm gonna mention it now since it's my next one, so I feel like it makes
Okay.
sense about it now. Um, I'm completely biased because the original Lady and the Tramp is one of my favorite films ever. Like I just love everything about Lady and the Tramp. Um, but I was definitely skeptical. I was like, I don't think it needs a remake, you know. Um, something I love about the original is the charm of it. Like the background music is just so charming, and I felt at times this movie was missing that. But I was still surprised that they kept some of the charm there. I would say now talking about it, I watched this one a couple months ago that I don't remember much about it, and that means that it's not that memorable.
Hmm.
I do remember that I feel like the pacing was extremely slow though.
Yes.
So that's something that kind of, made it hard to watch, I would say. But yeah, I just overall felt like bland. I did love that they made Darling and the dad like a bigger parts of the story a little bit. So that was cool. I agree, because in the original you don't even see their faces. So in this
Hmm.
one it's like nice at least to see their faces. But I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, it just I wanted more. That
Hmm.
that's basically it. I wanted more out of the movie.
Yeah.
Like
I didn't expect
for
much because they put it on Disney Plus. So I was like, I knew the budget wasn't going to be
yeah.
as big as say Aladdin or other ones. So I was like, I went without normal expectations.
Yeah. For most of these remakes, all I want is for them to do something that makes it stand out, even if it's like a basically a shot for shot remake, which I would prefer it not be. But even if that's what it is, just do something that makes the film feel like it needs to exist.
Hmm.
And so far they haven't done that.
Hmm.
Some are more than others. Some are like definitely the ones that are not a shot for shot remake. Those feel more like they have a reason to exist. But the ones where it's basically the same movie, I I want more.
I'd rather watch the original, which has way more charm and heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently we switched our two around again, the first or the last two and then the middle two, because my next one is Kim Possible. And this one I was actually surprised by. I expected that this one was kind of going to be bad
Hmm.
because it was a Disney Channel movie and they were recasting kind of a silly cartoon as a live action thing, and I don't mean silly cartoon in a bad way because I love Kim Possible. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was one of my favorite cartoons when I was a kid slash teenager. I thought it was hilarious. I always loved watching it. So I went into this thinking they're probably just going to butcher this and I'm going to hate it. And I didn't.
Mhm.
Like I thought that they did a very good job translating the cartoon to live action, and it still felt like the cartoon. It
Mhm.
was ridiculous. The villains were over the top, hammy, but not in a way that made me feel like cringy about it.
Yeah.
And even when they did lines that were supposed to be cringy because an adult was saying them, they only gave those lines to the over the top villains. Like when Dr. Draken was talking about uploading the video to embarrass her, he was like, think of the memes. And like, he's very cringy. That would be totally something that he would say. So I really hate it in movies where they try and make adults just be cringy by saying things that adults wouldn't say. But I
Right.
felt like for Dr. Draken, it made sense.
Yeah, I really like the dynamic with Dragon and Sheep. I feel like the
Yeah,
casting was great for those two.
yeah. And I thought that Kim was a good casting
Mhm.
choice. I do see your point about her crying too much, but I guess it made sense for the story they were going for.
Mhm.
And I thought Athena was better than I expected. Like when they bring in a third wheel, I guess, a new character that wasn't there before, normally it just doesn't work.
Mhm.
And I guess for her, I didn't see it not working. I thought she was a decent addition. Like if you have to add somebody to the team, I thought she was fine.
Okay.
I do see your point about Monique because I was waiting to find out who they were gonna put in Raven's role because I loved Raven. I mean, I still love Raven. So I was waiting to see who was gonna get her role, and nobody ever showed up. So that was a bit annoying.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I thought they did a good job translating a really silly cartoon into a really silly live action cartoon.
See, but my thing is, I feel like at times it wasn't silly enough. I feel like that sometimes it became too
Mm,
emo.
yeah, I can see that. I think I would have had it higher if they'd really really leaned into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the the emotional stuff did kind of bring it down. I think that's probably why I didn't love it, and I enjoyed it, but not to the point
Yeah,
of.
and I get it, like, teenagers, she's going through a lot and it's relatable in that
Hmm.
sense, change is hard, but don't make it most of the films. I mean, I do appreciate that the actress can really cry really well. It's hard
Hmm.
to do that. So, I mean, props to her, but it's just, we didn't watch Kim Possible to just watch this dramatic coming of age story.
Yeah, yeah.
We're looking for the silliness and the fun of it. So
Hmm.
I think some emotion is good 100%, but not be 90% of a film.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree that it did go a little too long with that.
Hmm.
And my other big, I don't know if you'd call it a criticism or complaint, was that the story was sort of recycled from a previous episode, or maybe it was one of the movies, where there was a robot that had been made to infiltrate her friend group.
Hmm.
And instead, in the cartoon, it was a love interest. In this, it was a friend interest. So it was kind of the same story, just told in a totally different way, which I appreciate that they like completely changed the story. But it still seemed kind of odd that for their first and maybe only live action outing for Kim Possible, that they would basically recycle a plot line.
Yeah,
It just seemed kind of odd, and I wish that they'd thought of a totally original story for this.
I agree.
But yeah, other than that, it surprised me. I liked it,
Hmm.
and I'd watch it again. It just wasn't one of my favorites.
Yeah,
But
honestly, I don't know why I went with high expectations. I have no idea why, because I saw the trailers and this looked
mhm,
not that great. But I don't know. I was like, they have the original writers. I
yeah,
like that they had the cameo of the girl, the voice of Kim Possible. I thought that was,
yeah, Christy Carlson Romano.
yeah.
She played a pop star, and I liked that they brought back Professor Dementor. Patton
Mhm.
Oswalt played him in the cartoon, and he was playing him in live action. I thought that was great.
That's cool.
And they brought back Nancy Cartwright to play Rufus, so that was nice.
Yeah. Based on the ending, do you think there might be a sequel?
I think they were setting it up to maybe be a sequel if fan reaction was good enough, but I feel like I've heard that it was one of the lowest rated
Yeah.
DComs. Like hardly anybody watched it. I don't think it got a lot of good press. So I'm kind of wondering maybe they won't.
Mm.
Who knows? Like I wouldn't mind if they did because I didn't think it was bad, and I think that
But it
a
would be good
sequel
to
would
take
help them iron it out.
criticism and make a better film.
Yeah. So who knows? We'll see.
A lot of people were complaining about her outfit, and I'm like, I liked it. I thought the thing in the necklace thing, that was cool.
I thought it
Twist.
was fine. Kim Possible's outfit in the original was fine for the cartoon, but like it feels weird to watch a little girl running
Hmm.
around in a crop top.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have liked that as much in
Yeah.
live action.
So I
It's
feel
fine
like
for the cartoon, but
we're grabbing so much to the original that they're not like we're open minded to it.
yeah.
So like I think it worked great. It made sense. So
Hmm. Basically, I just went into this knowing that it was more like an alternate universe.
hmm.
So it didn't need to fit into the original continuity, so I was fine with most of the changes.
Cool. So you want me to talk about number two?
Yeah.
Now my number two is Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Do we agree or not?
We've swapped all three times.
Oh my god, that's crazy. Okay, I'm gonna talk about Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. So, unpopular opinion, I love the original Maleficent movie. People give it so much crap, but I love it. And this one, I was like, kind of like low expectation because, like, I don't know, it just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't seem as great as the original ones. And my mom saw it, which she loved the first one. She's like, it was okay. So I was like, went with low, 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 low expectations. And I ended up loving it. Is it flawed?
Hmm.
100%. Like the proposal scene gave me no emotion whatsoever. They had no chemistry between those two actors. None. Absolutely nothing. I didn't feel the love. I didn't feel anything, which was such a major part of the story, which made it so annoying. I was like, bro, can you guys like bond like backstage a little bit because I'm getting nothing from the proposal. And then The ending made no sense. We just had this massive war and everyone just died. Let's just have a wedding. It's like, what? So those two things kind of bother me, but everything else, again, it's a flawed movie, 100%. But the action was awesome. The
Mhm.
visuals, amazing. When she wakes up in this nest cocoon looking thing, stunning. The
Mhm.
costumes, to die for. Love it. I would say my only other complaint would be that, I don't know, like Maleficent seemed to like have been like redeemed the first one, and this one it was kind of like, oh, she's mean again. That's the only thing that I didn't like, but it was visually stunning, exciting. Uh, I just loved it. I loved
Mhm.
it. Yeah.
I think I'll talk about Maleficent now too, since we already know that know what your top one is going to be.
Yeah.
Like for this one, this was another one that I was kind of going back and forth on, like which one did I
Mhm.
like better? Because really, there were kind of three tiers of movies. Like none of them were, I mean, amazing. None of them were amazing, but I had two that I thought were really enjoyable, two that I thought were fine, and two that I was uh, disappointed in. But I really enjoyed Maleficent, and I know that like even the original one, I enjoyed. It was people hated it for whatever reason. I
Yeah.
guess I can see why because the original Sleeping Beauty is a classic, and the animation is really part of why people love it. And I think people get for whatever reason, people get insulted about the remakes, and I think people were just being salty.
Yeah.
So the original was hated, and I didn't think it was bad. I mean, it had problems, but it was totally watchable, even rewatchable. But it wasn't awful.
No.
So I went into the new one with an open mind, but kind of hesitant because, like, it was called Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and like one of the things that I liked about the original was she was redeemed, and I'm a sucker for a good villain redemption story. So I
Mhm.
really liked that she got redeemed in the first one. So I was like, they're not going to walk back her whole character arc, are they? They're not going to make her turn around and be evil. I really hope not. So I was kind of hesitant, but then it turned out that the whole thing with the title was basically talking about the way she was perceived by everyone
Mhm.
because of all these lies and propaganda that had been spread by the kingdom just to make people think she's evil. So then that made perfect sense to me. I liked that. I really liked her with the queen. The two playing off each other were great.
Great dynamic.
And I mean, Angelina Jolie by herself is just great. Like, she's the reason these films work.
Mhm.
Like, if they'd had somebody else, I don't think I would like them as much
Mhm.
because Aurora is just fine.
It's bland,
She's
isn't
just
it?
fine. And she needs to be better than just fine. And I guess they might have gone that direction because in the original, she doesn't do a whole lot.
True.
It's basically Prince Philip and Maleficent's story.
Yeah.
So, like, even Prince Philip in this, he's just fine. I think they recast him from the original, and I
Yeah.
don't think anyone even really noticed because he's kind of just as bland as she is. But I like everything about most of the side characters is just fine. But Angelina Jolie is great, and the action is great. I really like the world they were building. I really liked all the creatures, and not all the creatures. Some of them were kind of annoying, the little ones, but but like Maleficent's species, I thought was a great idea.
Fantastic.
I
Yeah.
really liked like I mean, I saw it coming, but I liked the reveal at the end anyway with the phoenix.
Mhm.
And I mean, I just thought it was fun enough, and
Very
I
fun
was
and
happy with it.
yeah. I'm gonna mention going back to the proposal. So they live in a magical world, right? And this guy decides to just be like under the street, yo, wanna get married? I was like, what? You've been dating for like 3, I don't know, 5 years, something like that. They said. I was waiting, kind of like, you know how in The Little Mermaid and Kiss the Girl, they get inside this tree and the fish starts like spitting water and there's, I don't know, fireflies. I expected, because it's such a stunning film visually, and I was waiting for a
Hmm.
stunning visually proposal, like the fairies coming with flowers and petals, and it just feels so anticlimactic. It's like, cool, cool. It's like, no. I like when he like raises her up and spins her around, but it's like that was the only thing. I feel like they lost an opportunity to make this such an epic, I don't know, proposal thing that people would be like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. But yeah, I agree. It's just the films. I loved it. But it has flaws. I agree, 100%.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say it's a perfect film because it really isn't. It has a lot of flaws, but I think it's such a fun film. That's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I think you could say that about a lot of the remakes.
Hmm.
Most of them really have flaws,
Hmm.
but sometimes they work and they're fun in their own way.
Well, I might disagree a little bit because my number one is dun da 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 Aladdin. I This was my most anticipated movie of the year, and this is the little fun twist. I really dislike the original Aladdin. Ever since I was a kid,
Really?
I never liked it. The fact that he's like a compulsive liar, he gives me slithering vibes. I don't know. I didn't like it growing up. I did admit that the music was wonderful, but I was like, how can I be on this guy's side when he's constantly lying? Like I just couldn't connect with the character growing up, so I never liked the original one.
Hmm.
So I read the novelization of the live action before seeing this movie, and I was like, "Whoa, this is amazing!" And most of it's in the newer film. They had to get rid of some of the stuff because of time stuff, but I love this one. I think every problem I had with the original one, they fixed it here. The relationship between Aladdin and Jasmine is so strong in this one. It made me even blush like reading the novelization and watching the movie because it's so much more real and heartfelt. They have a
Hmm.
genuine connection. It's not just like you're hot, I'm hot, great. No, like they can relate to each other, and it feels like it slowly builds up. It doesn't feel as rushed as the original. So I think they did a fantastic job with the relationship. I think also the fact that they made Jasmine such a smarter. I mean, she was already like a great feminist icon in the original, but in this one, I feel like they gave her even more to work with. Like she, you see her in the novelization book, they give her more, but in the movie I feel like it goes really well. Like she has maps and she's into politics and she wants to know her people, and they also explain to you like why the dad doesn't let her go out because the mom was killed in the streets. And like I feel like every little problem I had, all the loopholes or the questions you had in the original, they really took the time to fix. And I feel like they not only made it its own in this film, like celebrating the original one, but they also made it its own. And I think that
Hmm.
was brilliant. The costume design was gorgeous. Again, so much chemistry between the actors. The only thing I did not like, well, I would say two things. Jafar was a huge letdown. I was waiting. I understand that they were going for like, why would the Sultan hire a creepy looking guy? So let's just have someone who looks like the next door guy because he's not suspicious, right? Make him more relatable. But something about his voice gave me nothing. He wasn't intimidating. He gave me nothing. Towards the end, he goes more cuckoo, and I appreciate that. But it's just, I was waiting for a more serious voice. And everyone I've talked to had the same problem. So definitely that was a casting choice that I think didn't work. And then the second thing is some of the musical numbers. Again, going back to The Lion King, Guy Ritchie is not a guy who does musicals. He's not in the theater industry. So I feel like some of the musical numbers felt very weak and lackluster. Um, Prince Ali, like I was waiting for like an even bigger parade. And it's just like it felt like the musical numbers I would say are like my least favorite part of the movie. Like every
Hmm.
every dialogue scene I love. Also, I'm really salty. I don't know if you've seen this. They cut this song called Desert Moon. Did you see it?
I remember you talking about it, but I don't think I ever saw it.
Oh my gosh, you have to look it up. So like now every time I rewatch the movie, there's this song that it's when Aladdin gets kidnapped. You know how he was like, "Oh, meet me tomorrow at midnight, and I give you this back." She's waiting for him, but he was kidnapped, so they can't meet. So they're both singing this song that their
Hmm.
moms taught them when they were little, called "Desert Moon," and it's such a sweet, loving song that I feel like even moves more the plot of like their relationship.
Hmm.
That I'm like so upset that they cut that because I was genuinely really surprised. But yeah, I could talk about this movie for hours. So I'm going to try to like narrow. I think Will Smith as the genie, he made it his own, which is really impressive. Having the pressure of Robin Williams being an icon and fantastic job. I love that. He's like, I'm not going to copy him. I'm going to do my own thing, which I think was great for this film. And yeah, I cried the first time watching. I was like, oh, this is so beautiful. But yeah, you can talk now.
Yeah, I think I agree with most of what you said. I never read the novelization, so I don't have that kind of insight into it. But I really enjoyed this movie. The only thing that I think, like, I feel like they're most between Maleficent 2 and Aladdin, they basically would be tied, except one thing about the Aladdin movie that kept bringing me down was every time the songs started. Like, for the most part, this movie felt like it was really being its own thing. It was its own version of Aladdin, which
Yeah.
I really liked. I loved that they were doing their own thing with it. But every time a song started, it felt like it was too much of a wink nod. Look at us, we're the original Aladdin. We're just being remade. It was like they were trying way too hard to be the original. It just sounded like a poor imitation of the original when it would have been better if they'd either put in their own songs or just not made it a musical.
What did you think of the new songs, Speechless?
I liked the new song except for the way it was handled in the movie because it
I
felt
agree.
weird.
Mm-hmm.
Because every other time there was a song, it was part of the action. It was part of the story. Like everyone knew that this is a musical and they leaned into it. But
Mm-hmm.
for the new song, she started singing and all the action around her froze for her to have this musical number by herself, and like all of the people around her just disappeared, which didn't make any sense for what we'd seen in musical numbers in the movie before. It just felt like they stopped the movie for a music video.
Yeah, that's what a lot
So
of people saying. Yeah,
I liked the song. It just felt weird the way they did it.
I
So
agree.
the way that they handled the music, I think just kind of brought it down below Maleficent for me. Otherwise, it probably would have been higher than Maleficent
Yeah, and I
because
totally see
uh,
this thing. It's like, why do they keep hiring people who don't do musicals to do musicals? There's so many
yeah.
talented people out there who can do musicals, and so that's for me the frustrating part because especially in One Jump Ahead, I like what they did it so that he's singing it with Jasmine now, and like, but I hate the fact that they do like a fast forward effect that he's like one jump, na 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 na. It's like what? Like I get that he's supposed to describe that he's in a rush or whatever, but like it just completely threw me off, and just like I didn't like that style choice at all in the song, and especially because I saw this behind the scenes picture where he's running with Jasmine and there's this like paint situation throwing stuff, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be cool, and then it goes so fast that you don't get to see it, which is super sad. Also in the trailers, originally the way they met was that there was this petals of flowers and then Jasmine turns around and you see all these petals of flowers and then he looks at her and they got rid of that, which I find it such a shame because I think it was a stunning visual scene. So I know they do that a lot where they put stuff in trailers and not in the films, but I'm really confused as to why they got rid of that. But yeah, it's like a guilty pleasure movie. Like I know it has flaws, but it makes me
Mhm.
feel so warm and cozy and happy that like I've seen it now 3 times and I love it.
Yeah, I think this one I definitely would rewatch. I bought it, so I do like it. And I I didn't buy Maleficent 2, so maybe I actually do like this one better. But I just I just keep thinking about the songs and how they kind of needed to have been done better. And that just it feels like it brings it down too much in my mind.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The fact that I bought this one and not Maleficent 2 probably says something. Maybe I do like this one more, but sometimes I don't feel like I'm that great at ranking things. But for one of the live action remakes, this is a very good one. It just the flaws just keep standing out to me that I feel like I need to rank it lower than I would otherwise, I think. Because otherwise I think this would have been an easy win to definitely overall I think it probably is better than Maleficent 2. Just the songs just keep coming back is something that I feel like I'm in
Well,
awe
I'm
about.
actually really
I don't
looking
know.
forward to the idea that they might do a sequel to Aladdin, which I think that would be
Yeah.
great. You know, they might probably do new songs, so that's gonna be super fun. And I think based on the criticism they got of the original one, the second one, I have really high hopes. I know they put somewhere that they're thinking of doing a spin-off movie about Prince Anderson, the one that is goes, "Hey, Poos Poos," that one, that dude, the one with the ponytail. And I'm like, he was super funny. I loved him, but do we really need a spin-off of him? I'd rather have a sequel of Aladdin. So
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't hate a spin-off of him. And actually, one of my friends, she recently watched it and she posted on Facebook that she wanted a movie just about him. And she had no idea that they'd made that announcement of they might do a Disney Plus movie. So she was excited when I told her that there might be one. So I guess people liked him enough that I guess maybe it is warranted.
this is my
But
problem. When they grab funny side characters and do movies about them, it almost never works. You
yeah,
know,
that is true.
Cars 2.
But I liked Cars too. So
Oh,
I'm one of the weird people who actually liked that one. I
well,
I
in
liked how
general,
weird it was though.
most people did enjoy it. So I'm saying,
Yeah.
like, it usually doesn't work.
Yeah. No, making movies about side characters sometimes, a lot of times, it's not a great idea. So
Yeah.
who knows? It depends on who's writing it. Like if they can write a good story, I'll totally watch it. I mean,
How do
I'll watch it anyways, just because
you
of
feel
it.
about the upcoming Mulan?
Um, we'll see. Like initially, I thought it was going to be great. I thought they were going to lean into doing a more historically accurate retelling, and now it seems like it's going to be a little bit more fantasy because there's a witch and a phoenix. So
Mm-hmm.
it seems weird, but I'm holding off judgment till I see it. I I don't know. We'll see. I really don't know what to expect because it's going to be a totally different story. It's going to be a totally different movie. Some people are really thinking it's going to be awful, and I'm not feeling that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just hoping it's going to be better than fine.
The cinematography is looking gorgeous, I will say that,
Yeah,
which I appreciate.
yeah.
Because
I don't
Aladdin, I
watch.
love it, but the cinematography is like meh. With this one, it's looking really, really pretty.
Yeah.
Love the tones, and like you said, I agree that it's like go historically accurate or go fantasy. It's like don't go in the middle, you know.
Hmm.
And I think like one of the most successful live action films, which include Beauty and the Beast, the Aladdin one, all those, they all have in common the fact that like they kept the songs. And so
Hmm.
them getting rid of the songs in this one, I feel like it really is gonna affect the nostalgia appeal to it, I will say. Um, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it. I've seen the trailers a lot of times in the movie theaters. It's like, whoa, it looks stunning and fun. But I do agree that the fact that they made the witch uh, the main villain, I was like, oh, really?
Yeah. It seems like there might be some weird choices being made, but I'm trying to reserve judgment until after I've seen the movie
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't do any good to preform your opinion because
Yeah,
like I assumed that I was going to really enjoy Dumbo. I did not.
there you go. I thought I was gonna hate the new Aladdin one because I remember the teaser trailer came out and it was awful, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna suck." And now look at me; I've seen it 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to prejudge just from a trailer. You
Yeah,
never know if they're showing their best stuff. You never know if something is just looks different in the trailer because sometimes something will seem like one thing and it's not. So who knows? We'll see.
who knows?
Okay, well, we did it. We made it through our ranking list. Do you want to let people know where they can find you in the future?
Sure. My channel is Animation Geek, so if you want to check me out and hear me rant about Aladdin a lot, and if you're interested to see my review of the novelization, I actually talk about it in my channel.
Okay. And I'll have links to that down below.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. We'll have to do another episode one of these days.
Yes, love that.
Well, we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks again to Sol for joining me for this episode. I'll have a link to her channel in the description. Next time, the 2019 recap will continue with an episode looking at all the animated films of last year. My friend Katie will be joining me on that episode, so make sure to come back for that one. And then to finish out this series, I'll be joined by my friend Eli, and we'll be giving you our top 10 favorite films of 2019. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.